Let me start with something I want you to feel in your bones before we go any further. You are not a cautionary tale. You are a person, a whole, complicated, beautifully imperfect human being who has been busy living life. And now, somewhere between the soccer practices and the mortgage payments and the birthday cakes and the late nights at the office and maybe a divorce or a health scare or a job loss or two, you've arrived at your 50s or 60s and looked around and thought, where did the time go? And what do I do now? I've sat across from hundreds of people in exactly this place. I've seen the shame on their faces when they admit the number in their retirement account. I've watched them apologize. To me, a financial professional they barely know, as if they owe me an explanation for why life got complicated. And every single time, I want to reach across that table and say, stop, take a breath. We have more to work with than you think. This isn't a piece about regret. It's about momentum. It's about the very real, very practical, very human things you can do right now, today, to build a retirement that doesn't just survive, but actually gives you something to look forward to. I'm going to walk you through 12 of them. Some will feel familiar, some might surprise you, and at least one, I hope, will genuinely change the way you see your situation. Let's get into it. 1. Know that you are not alone and that it is never too late. The first thing I want to do is take away the shame, because shame is not a financial strategy. It is, in fact, the enemy of one. You would be astonished, truly astonished, at how many people arrive at their 55th or 60th birthday with little or nothing set aside for retirement. We're not talking about people who were reckless or irresponsible. We're talking about people who bought their first home when the interest rates made it feel like a stretch. People who quietly helped a child through college because that's what parents do. People who lived through recessions, through layoffs, through medical emergencies that wiped out whatever buffer they had managed to build. The financial services industry loves to publish those glossy charts showing what happens when you invest $200 a month starting at age 25. What those charts never show is what happens when life intervenes. And life, I promise you, always intervenes. So here is my first piece of advice, and it might be the most important one on this entire list. Be kind to yourself. Not as a touchy-feely platitude, but as a strategic necessity. Because the moment you stop carrying the weight of what you didn't do and start directing that energy toward what you can do, everything changes. You are not behind. You are exactly where you are. And from here, we move forward. 2. Take a clear, honest inventory of your situation. There's a particular kind of dread that comes with not knowing. When the numbers feel scary, the human instinct is to look away, to not open the statements, to keep the retirement account in the category of things I'll deal with later. I understand that impulse completely, and I'm asking you to push past it. Because here's what I've learned after years of working with people in every conceivable financial situation. The reality is almost never as bad as the fear. The fear is enormous and shapeless. The reality, when you finally sit down and look at it directly, is a set of specific numbers. And specific numbers can be worked with. Start here. How old are you right now? If you're 55, you have 10 years before the traditional retirement age of 65, and 15 years before 70, which I'd argue is a more useful milestone for most people today. 10 years is not nothing. 15 years is genuinely meaningful. You can build a great deal in 15 years when you're focused and intentional. Even 5 years managed well can make a difference you'll feel for the rest of your life. Write it all down, your income, every source, your expenses, every category, your assets, what you own outright, what you owe on, your debt load, any potential inheritance, a pension if you're lucky enough to have one, Social Security projections, which you can pull for free at ssa.gov. Your ability to earn an income is the single greatest financial asset you have right now. I want you to really sit with that. Not the balance in your 401k, not the equity in your house, though both of those matter, but your human capital. Your ability to show up, to contribute, to generate income. That is your golden goose, and protecting it and maximizing it is the foundation of everything else we're going to talk about. One more thing worth noting, income alone doesn't determine outcomes. I have worked with people earning $200,000 a year who had nothing saved and people earning $45,000 a year who had built remarkably solid nest eggs. What separates them is never how much they made, it's how intentional they were about what they kept. The great writer George Clason put it perfectly. Our so-called necessary expenses will always swell to consume whatever we earn unless we make a conscious, deliberate choice to resist that. The resistance requires a plan. 3. Know your numbers, every single one. Here is a sentence I say to clients constantly, and I believe it with everything I have. You cannot manage what you do not measure. That means knowing your numbers, your actual income, not a rough estimate, your actual expenses, not a ballpark, where your money comes in and where it goes. This isn't about judgment, it's about information, and right now, information is power. I know that the word budget makes people's eyes glaze over. For some people, it carries the emotional weight of deprivation, of saying no, of a kind of financial punishment. I'd like to propose that we reframe it entirely. A budget, or whatever you want to call it, a cash flow plan, a spending map, a money roadmap, isn't a cage, it's a compass. It tells you where you are so you can figure out how to get where you want to go. It doesn't hold you back from living. Done right, it is the thing that allows you to live by making sure your money is going toward the things that actually matter to you rather than disappearing into a fog of small, forgettable transactions. 2 things you need to know clearly and precisely. A, where your money comes from every month. B, where your money goes every month. That's it. Start there. The clarity alone can be transformative. 4, do a 30-day spending audit. I want to give you a concrete assignment, and I want you to take it seriously. For the next 30 days, track every single dollar you spend, every coffee, every streaming subscription, every impulse buy at the checkout aisle, every time you tap your card. Not because I want to make you feel guilty about the latte, but because most of us are genuinely unaware of where our money goes. Not because we're careless, but because modern spending is designed to be frictionless and invisible. The money leaves our accounts quietly, in increments small enough that each one feels harmless. The audit brings it all into the light. You can do this on a piece of paper. You can use a spreadsheet. You can use an app. The medium doesn't matter. The commitment does. 1 month of honest tracking will show you more about your financial life than a year of good intentions. You will see patterns you didn't know were there. You will find money hiding in places you didn't think to look. And that money, reclaimed and redirected, becomes the beginning of your retirement. 5, keep more of your own money. Once you can see where your money is going, you gain something priceless, the power to make different choices. I want you to do a thought experiment with me. Imagine, just for a moment, that you had no expenses, that every dollar you earned this month was yours to keep and invest. I know that's not reality, but stay with me. If you saved and wisely invested your full income for the next 10 or 15 years, what would that look like? Run that number. It's probably more impressive than you expected. Now, we can't eliminate expenses, but we can absolutely reduce them. And in many cases, we can reduce them dramatically. Every dollar you redirect from spending to saving isn't just a dollar, it's a dollar that will grow over the years ahead. The math is genuinely exciting once you see it clearly. This isn't about deprivation, it's about priorities. It's about deciding consciously and deliberately that the life you want in your 70s and 80s is worth making some adjustments for in your 50s and 60s. That's not sacrifice, that's wisdom in action. 6, get creative and think entirely outside the box. This is the one I love talking about most because it's where the real magic happens. It's where people stop accepting the constraints they've always assumed were fixed and start reimagining what's actually possible. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, my wife Tara and I were young, broke, and newly married with small children. We were renting an apartment, trying to get by, and dreaming of saving enough for a down payment on our first house. Every time we looked at our income and expenses side by side, it felt hopeless. There simply wasn't any room. But instead of accepting that reality, We asked a different question, not how do we save more, but how do we change the equation entirely? Tara had spent time volunteering at a care center for elderly people. She had a natural warmth and patience with older adults. It was genuinely one of her gifts. And one day, we had an idea that felt a little crazy. What if we found an elderly person who needed live-in care and offered ourselves as that care, a husband and wife team with 2 young kids in tow? We ran an ad in the newspaper. This was before the internet, so that's what you did. And the response genuinely surprised us. Several families reached out. We met with the first one and fell in love immediately. A kind, gentle man in his 90s named Grandpa Joe, who had recovered from a stroke and absolutely adored children. His family offered us the full basement apartment, all utilities, groceries, and an additional monthly payment for Tara's care work. We lived with Grandpa Joe for just under a year. It was one of the most meaningful experiences of our lives. And at the end of it, we had saved enough for a down payment on our first home, something that would have taken us many more years otherwise, maybe forever. I tell you that story not because live-in caregiving is the right answer for you, but because the spirit of that story is applicable to almost anyone. The willingness to ask unconventional questions, the courage to try something that hasn't been done before, the recognition that your biggest expenses are often the most movable if you're willing to think differently about them. Here's another story that hits closer to the topic at hand. A couple in their early 60s, let's call them Robert and Linda, came to me with very little saved, but Robert's income was the highest it had ever been, and they knew they had maybe 3 to 5 good earning years left before he wanted to slow down. The problem was their lifestyle. A large home, high overhead, years of comfortable spending that had become normalized. They decided to do something dramatic. They sold their house. They moved in with their adult daughter, a single mom in grad school, working part-time, raising a toddler. Robert and Linda offered to pay a modest rent, help with utilities, and, most valuably, be full-time, loving childcare for their grandson. In one move, they slashed their expenses by nearly 70%. Their daughter got to finish her degree without the crushing weight of childcare costs. And Robert and Linda saved more in 3 years than they had in the previous 2 decades combined. When their daughter graduated and got on her feet, they moved into a comfortable, low-maintenance condo, mortgage-free, and stepped into retirement in a position they never could have imagined just a few years earlier. That's creative thinking. That's refusing to accept the first version of the story. That's what's available to you if you're willing to look. 7, work longer and make peace with that. I want to be honest with you about something. 65 is an artifact. It's a number that made sense in an era when people didn't live as long as they do now, when the physical demands of most jobs were far greater, when medicine couldn't do what it can today. It was never a magic number. It was a policy decision made decades ago. Today, many people in their late 60s are healthier, sharper, and more energetic than their parents were at 50. The idea that 65 is the finish line is not just outdated. For most of us, it's actually counterproductive, because every year you keep working is a year you're not drawing down savings, a year your investments keep growing, a year your Social Security benefit increases. The financial difference between retiring at 62 versus 70 is staggering. And here's something else worth considering. Many people I know who have retired early are, frankly, a little bored. The work gave them structure, purpose, identity, social connection. Without it, the days can feel surprisingly empty. Retirement isn't automatically a paradise. It's only fulfilling when you know what you're retiring to, not just what you're retiring from. If you're burned out on your current job, that's worth paying attention to. But I'm tired of this job and I'm ready to stop working are 2 different things. Could you transition to something different? Something that uses your experience in a new context, maybe part-time, maybe freelance? Could you start a small business doing something you've always wanted to try? Could a side hustle give you both additional income and a creative outlet that makes the years ahead feel more alive? Working longer, done thoughtfully, is not a consolation prize. For many people, It's a genuine advantage, financially and personally. 8. Delay Social Security for as long as you possibly can. If there is one piece of financial strategy that I believe is most consistently underestimated, it is this: delaying Social Security benefits. I know the temptation to claim early. I see it all the time. People hit 62, they can technically start collecting, and the check in hand feels real in a way that the future doesn't. But the math here is remarkable. For every year you delay claiming beyond your full retirement age, which for most people today is 66 or 67, your benefit grows by 8%. That's a guaranteed, inflation-adjusted 8% annual increase. You will not find that in the market. And if you or your spouse lives into your 80s or 90s, which statistically is quite likely, the cumulative difference between claiming at 62 versus 70 can amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Your Social Security benefit is also calculated using your 35 highest earning years. If you're in your late 50s or early 60s and your income is at or near the peak of your career, every additional year you work is potentially replacing a lower earning year in that calculation, which means your eventual benefit goes up in 2 ways at once. This single decision, when to claim Social Security, is one of the most powerful levers available to you. Take it seriously, get personalized projections, and think strategically. 9. Invest in your physical and mental health like your financial life depends on it, because it does. Here's the truth that doesn't get said enough in financial planning conversations: your health is your wealth. A sedentary lifestyle, chronic stress, poor nutrition, these aren't just personal well-being issues, they are financial risks of the highest order. Disease is expensive. It is expensive in direct medical costs, in lost work capacity, in the reduced ability to enjoy the retirement you worked so hard to build. The research on this is unambiguous and overwhelming. When you are physically vital and mentally sharp, you can work longer. You can earn more. You can make better decisions with the money you have. You can reduce your healthcare costs over time. And perhaps most importantly, you can actually enjoy the years you've worked so hard to reach. Exercise regularly, not because someone told you to, but because the investment pays dividends in every area of your life. Eat in ways that fuel your body rather than just satisfying the moment. Protect your sleep. Manage stress through whatever healthy channels work for you. Stay socially connected. Keep learning. These are not soft recommendations. They are core components of a retirement strategy. If you can only change one thing this week, let it be this: move your body every single day. It costs nothing and changes everything. 10. Have faith in yourself, in the future, and in something larger. I want to talk about something that financial plans rarely make room for, but that I believe is absolutely essential: faith. Faith that you are capable of more than you currently believe. Faith that the future, while uncertain, is not hopeless. Faith, for those who hold it, in a God or a higher power that has not abandoned you in this chapter of your story. I've seen people in what looked like impossible situations find a way, not through luck, not through some windfall, but through a combination of focused effort, creative thinking, genuine community, and a deep, stubborn belief that things could be better. That belief is not naive, it is generative. It is the thing that keeps you at the table when the numbers feel discouraging. It is the thing that makes you try the unconventional idea, reach out for help, make the difficult phone call, start the business you've been thinking about for years. The poet Ella Wheeler Wilcox wrote something I think about often. There is no chance, no destiny, no fate that can circumvent or hinder or control the firm resolve of a determined soul. Read that again. A determined soul, not a wealthy soul, not a perfectly positioned soul, not a soul that made all the right choices at 25. A determined one. Put that somewhere, you'll see it every morning. It sounds simple. It is not small. 11. Never, ever stop learning. One of the most powerful investments you can make right now costs almost nothing: the investment of your attention. Read voraciously. George Clayson's The Richest Man in Babylon will teach you about money in ways that feel timeless, because they are. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich will challenge you to think about what's really possible when you apply focused intention. Countless other books on personal finance, investing, tax strategy, and retirement planning are available to you at the library, free of charge. But beyond books, you need to understand the specific tools available to you right now. If you're over 50, you're eligible for catch-up contributions to your IRA and 401k. In 2024, you can contribute an additional $1,000 per year to an IRA beyond the standard limit and an additional $7,500 to a 401k. These catch-up provisions were designed precisely for people in your situation, people who are serious about making up ground. Do you have a Roth IRA? If you don't and your income qualifies, this should be on your radar. The ability to grow money tax-free and withdraw it tax-free in retirement is a remarkable privilege, and one that becomes increasingly valuable the longer you have to let it grow. Are you putting money in taxable investment accounts as well as retirement accounts? Understanding the difference between tax-deferred, tax-free, and taxable growth, and how to use all three strategically can meaningfully change your retirement picture. Don't be intimidated by any of this. Every concept I just mentioned can be learned. You have the internet, you have books, and you have financial professionals who can help you navigate the specifics of your situation. The learning is not the hard part. The hard part is deciding that you're worth the effort. You are. 12. Don't overlook the HECM, a strategy that could change everything. I want to close with something that genuinely surprises most people when they hear about it, and that I believe is one of the most underutilized tools in retirement planning for people over 62 with significant home equity, the home equity conversion mortgage, or HECM. You've probably heard the term reverse mortgage and maybe shuddered a little. The reverse mortgages of a generation ago carried real risks and had earned some of their bad reputation. But the landscape has changed substantially. Modern HECMs are federally insured, come with meaningful consumer protections, and have become a genuinely sophisticated financial planning tool in the right circumstances. Here is what a HECM can do in its simplest form. If you are at least 62 years old and have roughly 50% or more equity in your home, you may be able to use a HECM to eliminate your monthly mortgage payment entirely. Let that sink in for a moment. No more mortgage payment. For many people, that's their single largest monthly expense. Gone. Beyond eliminating the payment, a HECM can potentially establish a tax-free income stream to supplement your retirement income or create a line of credit that grows over time and can be tapped as needed. Used strategically, it can serve as a buffer that allows you to delay drawing down your investment portfolio during market downturns, which for retirees is one of the most damaging things that can happen. This is not the right strategy for everyone. It depends heavily on your specific situation, your equity, your age, your income needs, your housing plans, your estate goals. But if you own your home and you're 62 or older, it is absolutely worth understanding. Don't rule it out because of outdated assumptions. Do the research. Talk to someone who knows this product well. You might be sitting on a resource you didn't know you had. The bottom line, your story isn't written. Yet, I want to come back to where we started because I mean it just as much now as I did then. You are not too late. You are not a lost cause. You are not defined by the balance or the absence of one in a retirement account. You are a person with agency, with creativity, with relationships, with skills, with earning power, with decades of hard-won life experience that has value in ways both financial and profound. The 12 things I've shared here are not magic. They don't erase the years that have passed or transform your situation overnight, but they are real. They work. I have watched them work in the lives of real people who sat across from me, feeling exactly the way you might be feeling right now, uncertain, maybe a little ashamed, unsure where to begin. Begin here. Begin today. Take one step, just one, from this list and put it into action before the week is out. Write down your numbers. Start the spending audit. Have the conversation with your spouse. Look up your Social Security projection. Pick up one of the books. Make an appointment with a financial planner. One step becomes two. Two becomes momentum. And momentum, over the years you have ahead of you, becomes a retirement that is not just survivable, but genuinely, beautifully livable. Your story isn't written yet. Pick up the pen. If any part of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear which piece hit home. Leave a comment and let me know. And if you found this valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because I promise you they're out there and this might be exactly what they needed today.